Hello, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we are going to start a new series, and here to premiere Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with me is Jack Lucenay. Jack, thanks for joining me, man. It's always good to have you.
What's up? What's up? Glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's always good to have you back, man. You want to take a minute here, plug yourself, tell everyone where they can find you?
Yep, you can find me basically all over the place right now on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and even now on TikTok with some dumb little shorts that I'm making. You can find me all in my name at Jack Lucenay right down here. And also you can find my articles exclusively at fantasyfootballadviceforum.com. So make sure you go check that out.
TikTok's a black hole. I'll turn on TikTok for 10 minutes before bed and I'll say, oh, watch this for 5 minutes. Next thing I know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know what I'm watching.
So I just don't turn it on at all. I use it exclusively. Like I upload my video, I turn it off. That's it. It's gone forever. I actually really hate shorts in general. And it's funny because it's like the kids are banned basically from TikTok. So I almost feel bad using it, but it's like necessity of evil these days. So
yeah,
I'm on there now. Follow me at Jack Lucenay for some really dumb shorts. I just did just literally right before this uploaded a parody cover of Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. But it's a fantasy football, basically saying get the stack of Justin Fields, DJ Moore.
I'm terrified to see what rabbit hole that's going to lead me down if I click on it. So let's get into Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts. We will start with your which one is this? We've got Daniel Jones. What is he for you? Sleeper, breakout, or bust?
So he technically could be a breakout, but he's my sleeper.
That's what I thought. I thought I had them in order, but I couldn't remember. So
no, it's based on his ADP. It's just the fact that in Superflex, obviously the price is driven up on every quarterback, but even then he's going usually in the third round, sometimes in the fourth. But we're doing basically a single quarterback, and in single quarterback, he's going very late. And that's where I really love him, because then you can get Darren Waller as the tight end where you don't have to reach on that premium tight end of either Kelsey or Mandrews. But I think Waller has a good chance of competing with them this year because he's going to be a target vacuum there in New York. And I think he's going to help Danny Dimes. And my big thing with Danny Dimes, and this is not just Danny Dimes, this is like every quarterback in the history of the NFL, all right, that isn't an elite quarterback. Like, everyone is a system quarterback at the end of the day. Mark Sanchez was very successful until he wasn't, and it was based largely on coaching and the team around him. And until he had that butt fumble, everything was fine. And with Daniel Jones, until he had the rumble stumble, everything was fine. But it's you look at what this man has suffered through with drafted by essentially Pat Shurmur and Mike Shula, which was considerably an upgrade of the coaches that took over in Joe Judge and the clap machine, Jason Garrett. So I always call it Alex Smith syndrome because Alex Smith was a decent quarterback. I think we can all agree that he was a good quarterback. He was ultimately a system quarterback. That's not always a bad thing. You can elevate a system quarterback who is accurate and a game manager to be able to be an effective winning quarterback. But if you surround him with a pile of dung, the stink is going to stick to him. And so with Daniel Jones, now he's entering his second season with Brian Daboll and the offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka. So you're seeing continuity along the offense. And that's where I expect the passing numbers to come up. Not they're going to go crazy or anything, but he threw 15 touchdowns. If he throws 25, which I think is a pretty marginable and safe number in today's NFL, and then just repeats his rushing numbers. That's it. Just not even like goes considerably higher, just repeats similar rushing numbers to what he had last year, which was secret running quarterback, which is like the secret sauce to success in fantasy football. He's going to finish top 10 again, and he's not being drafted that way based on his ADP.
We have the 2023 Fantasy Pros projections on screen, but for those of you listening, their projections are QB 12, 3,474 passing yards, 20.7 TDs, passing TDs, 9.8 interceptions, 638 rushing yards, and 4.9 rushing touchdowns. Of all the potentially startable quarterback tight end stacks, Daniel Jones to Darren Waller has to be the least exciting, most boring, potentially elite stack I've ever heard of. You could have legitimately a top 5 tight end and a top 8 or 9 quarterback, and God, is it so unsexy and so boring. That's ugly, but I don't hate it.
But it's the bargain. It's also like one of the least expensive in fantasy football, especially when you're talking about in single quarterback leagues. Because it's like the only other one that I've really done, and I've lived and died by Mahomes Kelsey stack for the longest time, for the last 2 years, basically. This is the first year that the price has been driven up so high that I finally, like, the neighborhood has been gentrified and I have had to move out. So I am now looking for a new place to live. And, you know, there's like different places based on my budget. Now, a little bit outside of my budget, but I'm willing to spend up because it's a really nice place, is Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. So in particular, like I mentioned, the single quarterback league, sticking with that theme, if I am at that 3-4 turn where I get to double tap, and if Mark Andrews and Lamar are still there, that's automatic for me at 3-4, especially if I got to get my 2 studs. But even sometimes, honestly, because I've done it in the past, I haven't been beyond reaching for them. If I am at the late 2, so if it's at that 2-3 turn where it's like, so in a 12-man, 14-man league, and I'm at 212, and I'm picking 212, 3-1, I know that they're not both coming back to me. If I take one of them, the other one is going to get picked before me. So in that specific situation, sometimes I will just be like, you know what, screw it. I got one stud, either running back or wide receiver, depending how I went. And I'm just going to take my 2 onesie positions right now and then just double tap running back, wide receiver over and over after that. And I don't have to worry about quarterback, tight end until the end of the draft when I'm getting backups.
Yeah, some of these stacks for the QB tight end are way out of control. I find the Lamar one, even Lamar, Andrews, Kelsey, Mahomes, I think they're too expensive. I don't really like stacking a San Fran quarterback with Kittle. I'm not in on the Atlanta offense. I find the best ones are this one, the Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, and Cousins Hawkinson, but I like this one better. I'm not really a big believer in Hawkinson. I think he's overvalued. So I think, as scary and boring as it is, I think this might be my favorite quarterback tight end stack at the price.
Well, and Hawkinson is a higher price even than Darren Waller. So it's like you're getting value on both. This is probably the only one where they could, like you said, legitimately, Waller could legit finish top 5. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, I think he's going to finish top 10. The rushing numbers were too low there. And when I say rushing numbers, I mean the touchdowns. It's Brian Daboll. He basically turned Josh Allen into what he is. He's going to have Danny Dimes run in touchdowns. And even with Saquon there, like it's just how the system works. It's not like Matt Breida is the guy coming in to like steal the touchdowns, really, for the most part. He's there just to give reprieve to Saquon when needed.
Yeah. All right, we will move on to your sleeper. Nope, sorry, your breakout. Your breakout is Green Bay wide receiver Christian Watson. Fantasy Pros predicts him or has him ranked as wide receiver 16. 66.6 rushing yards. That's ominous. 666. 1 rushing touchdown, 69.5 receptions, 955 receiving yards, 6.1 touchdowns. What do you have to say about Watson?
I have a whole lot to say. So this one was probably one of the harder ones that I had to pick. Because, I mean, when it comes to breakouts, it's like, give me all the sophomore wide receivers that I can handle. It's like, give me Olave, give me Drake London, give me Christian Watson, give me George Pickens. Even to a degree, call it a second chance at a sophomore season. Give me Gabe Davis. Like, there's so many guys I could have picked here. And then the rookies even. I love Flowers. I love Addison. I love even JSN, even though I don't love the landing spot. Like, the talent is there. So there was so, like, literally, I feel like we're spoiled for choice almost at wide receiver this year. But Christian Watson, I think, is almost in a sense being overlooked. And so is Jordan Love. And it's, with Aaron Rodgers departing, I get it. 4-time MVP, former Super Bowl, Hall of Fame quarterback leaves. You expect the downgrade, but I've been looking and it's 3 things essentially that I love about Christian Watson. The first thing is that it's so easy to stack with Jordan Love. Jordan Love is one of the my most drafted QB2s and QB3s.
My buddy Cody Carpentier got that stack in our Scott Fishbowl league. I think he got it in the it went late. Later than it should have. I feel like he got it in the 7, 8, 8, 9 range. He got it on the turn and got them both. So
I got it I had to reach for it a little earlier in my league. If I remember correctly, I believe I got it at 5.6, and I was drafting from 1.6, so I was in the middle. But I needed to look. My whole thing is I'm a little bit of a football historian. Like, I really love football.
Sorry, he got it at 6.7. He got it at 6.7, so it wasn't as late as I thought.
I got it at 5.6. I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to be staring into my phone right now, but
it's all good.
I'm just going to say it was 5.6, but like I was saying, I'm a bit of a football historian. I love watching like really old tape. I love learning about the old history and old players. I've got a new series that it's not ready yet, but I'm working on it. It's going to be called Legends of the Fall. Basically, it's like going to be a look at legends from football past, from like 1975 and prior. And, history repeats itself. And I think with the Packers and with certain organizations, you just have to believe in the organization that they're going to get it right. And I had a whole thing about, like, at the end of the day, the worst that I think Jordan Love will be is now I'm forgetting the names, of course, of the other Packers quarterbacks through history, but the Magic Man, I think it was Don Majkowski, was it what? And then
I can remember Rodgers and Favre. That's it, so don't feel bad.
Okay, so anyways, but there were a lot of guys between like Bart Starr and Brett Favre that were like legitimately, like, they were maybe not great Hall of Fame, elite, all-time best ever compared to like Favre and Rodgers. But they were really, really good quarterbacks who like were very successful in their time. So it's like, to me, the worst Love will be is those guys. And it's like the best he has to offer and potential is to be the next Hall of Fame quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, who's a starter for like the next 15 years. And so it's like, so it's a very long-winded way of saying I think he's going to succeed in what will ultimately be his rookie season after redshirting. And when you look at what Aaron Rodgers did in a similar fashion, now granted he had veteran and better wide receivers, so that's the biggest concern, is that literally all of the options for this team are rookies and under. But that will be to my next point, is that Aaron Rodgers in that rookie season essentially threw 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. I think that's pretty conservative numbers. And if you stat out something kind of similar for Jordan Love, like Aaron Rodgers supported 2,000-yard wide receivers in that season in Donald Driver and Greg Jennings. And so getting to what I was saying before, though, it's a little dubious. It could potentially backfire and blow up in their faces. I wish they would have taken JSN at 12 instead of the defensive end out of Iowa that they ended up taking. I think he's a good defensive end. They needed him, but I think JSN would make me feel more comfortable about this whole offense, considering the fact that they are leaning on. So it's Jaden Reed, Musgrave, and Kraft, the 2 tight ends. Also, Dontavius Wicks, who they took late, and even the fullback are all rookies.
They have Dobbs on there still, don't they?
Yeah, but Dobbs is in his second year also. He's with Christian.
Oh, okay.
Drafted last year with Christian Watson. So they do not have anybody that's been there for more than a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So like all these rookies are going to be learning the offense. And now with Aaron Rodgers gone, you got to question, like, is the offensive line going to hold up? Are they going to be able to play the same? Are they going to have to learn new cadences and new rhythms? And, like, is that going to be janky, especially in the beginning of the season? So it is concerning, but ultimately, because of everything I just said, that feels like Christian Watson is a lock to lead this team in targets. And when I say lead this team in targets, like, there's almost no way that he's going to have less than 125 targets. And I think that's going to translate to success by force, like whether, like it's going to be a volume thing. And I don't know if he's going to score touchdowns at the rate he did with Aaron Rodgers, but over the season, I do think he's going to have 8 to 10 touchdowns, and he's going to have about 1,000 yards. He's going to have 80 receptions. Like, I just don't see a way he doesn't, barring injury.
I think 2 things. I agree with you, and I really think that he has the upside. And I definitely, like, I don't think this is going to be a Hurts AJ Brown stack. I think it's going to be the light version. But the thing that I hate is I literally just wrote an article about these value traps where we have the old Treylon Burks where it's like, well, shit, they have to be a wide receiver too because there's no one else there. And then everyone buys in, and then they get some veteran out of nowhere right before the season starts. And it's like, well, shit, I shouldn't have overpaid for him. So I don't see the Packers doing that. They're not big on veteran wide receivers, and they've got a ton of rookies. But what's that?
DeAndre Hopkins already signed.
Yeah. It goes literally against everything I have like in me. So like I think if we get into like the preseason and like I don't have much of them in Dynasty or early best ball drafts or anything, but if we get into the normal like August redraft like drafts, I think I'll have more of them once I know more about the situation. But man, does he scare me sometimes. So
but that's where in Dynasty especially, I feel like Jordan Love and Christian Watson both are buys because a lot of people are not as hot and bothered as I am. And I feel like you can take advantage of that where it's like, look, at worst, they're going to be the starters for the next 3 to 5 years. And that's what people are usually looking for in Dynasty. But this is one of those occasions where it's like, I do legitimately think you could be buying in on a decade of success between them.
All righty. Let's move on to your final player. You have a bust for Dallas running back Tony Pollard. Fantasy Pros has him ranked RB7. His 2023 projections are 1,097 rushing yards, 7.9 rushing TDs, 46.8 receptions, 391.8 receiving yards, 2.4 receiving touchdowns. Why is it you're out on Pollard?
Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer.
That's a good reason.
I mean,
you had me at Mike McCarthy.
I did actually do more research than that. And I always say, and I've said it on my show a bunch of times, and so I thought I would say it on yours, surround yourself with people smarter than you. And I think I like to almost play dumb. I've got the whole fantasy joker moniker. And yes, my differentiator is my feelings. But it doesn't mean that I'm like empty-headed when I'm going into these drafts and I have no knowledge or anything. So the 2 basically big pieces of information that I drew from, I'm going to shout out at _ML football. So that's like a really huge account. But then the other one I think you're familiar with is they just go by Jeremy at Popes FFH.
Oh yeah. Jeremy Populars. Yeah, he's awesome. Popes
Okay.
FF. He's been on the show. He was one of the. I told him when I first started, he was one of the analytics accounts that I first started following. He's fucking awesome, especially with like rookie like draft season. He's awesome.
Okay, so I leaned both heavily on 2 pieces of research that they put out on Twitter. So shout out to them. Go find them on Twitter. We'll start with the ML football one, which was the betting odds for coaches that are going to get fired. Like basically who's on the hot seat. And number 1 with a bullet was Mike McCarthy. Like that was the easy one.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And when you like, I think Brian Schottenheimer could very easily be a one and done OC. Would not shock me at all. So Mike McCarthy, and then just for giggles, the other one was Todd Bowles. And then I disagree with Ron Rivera, he was at the bottom of the list, but also Dennis Allen was there, which I get because he's just supposed to be a placeholder for Sean Payton. So between like those 4 essentially, but Mike McCarthy he was at plus 500 and Todd Bowles was at plus 6. So Mike McCarthy is definitely on the hot seat. And then the other piece, now I tried real hard. I went as far as I could down his timeline. I didn't see any for Tony Pollard, but the one I'm going to lean on in the comparison I'm going to make is Travis Etienne. Because it feels like people are weirdly down on Travis Etienne, even though he had to deal with being injured and Urban Meyer's BS, just like everybody else. And then basically had his rookie season, which I thought was relatively successful, but other people seem to disagree. And when he looked at Etienne's output, it was basically like he struggled in the A gaps. And, Tony Pollard, I would have to see his stat out. Maybe it would surprise me, but he succeeded in an outside zone scheme, which is what Kellen Moore, now offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego because I can't get that out of my head.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the 90s too.
Yeah, he ran an outside zone scheme, which is primarily running. So like if you don't play offensive line, you don't know football like quite as like basically the center, the person snapping the ball in the middle, the 2 sides of his butt, those are called A gaps, and then in between every offensive lineman is B, and then you can call it C and even D, but basically it's ABC to make it real easy. All right. And when you're having your running back run right up the center's ass every time, which is those 2 A gaps, that is a bad scheme, especially for a guy built like Tony Pollard. Just like Travis Etienne, they are actually built very similarly. Their game is actually quite similar as well, I find. The difference is Etienne had more draft capital than Tony Pollard. And honestly, I think the Jaguars have much better coaching and a much better team around Travis Etienne than Tony Pollard is set up to have in Dallas. Because you look at Dak last year, he struggled mightily. He had 14 interceptions, and ultimately, I'm not even going to count technically it was 15 and 12, but I'm not even counting the one where he got hurt. I'm going to say, counting just from when he got back, he had 14 interceptions in 11 games. Now they're going to add Brian Schottenheimer, and people are like, I love how when I say, oh, they're adding Brian Schottenheimer, who has a terrible, predictable offense that is stale and outdated, they're like, they try to defend it by being like, well, Mike McCarthy's going to run the offense. With what? His stale and outdated offense?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Like,
I don't like his price, and I don't think he can hold up to the workload. That's for me.
So the ADP is the other thing. It's like, it's crazy to me that he's being drafted ahead of like Najee Harris and Travis Etienne and like other dudes that I would much rather have. But it's like at an ADP that's like literally 2 rounds higher sometimes.
Even in Dynasty, he's going ahead of like Gibbs. He's 26 already, and he hasn't even gotten a shot to start.
Yeah,
And the
I'm
one
not
time he
even
got
like a
significant
big,
work last year, he couldn't hold up to it and broke his leg.
I'm not even like a huge believer in Jahmyr Gibbs or anything, but I would 100% take Gibbs over Pollard in Dynasty, like eyes closed, easy peasy.
Yeah, that's it for sure. I agree 100%, and I am out on him. All right, well, that wraps up our season premiere of Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts. Today's guest was Jack Lucenay. Jack, thanks again for joining me. Once again, you want to take another shot here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you can find me and my dumb work on YouTube for the most part. You can find all my videos there. I do one really meaningful series that I love, which is Wildcard Wednesdays. We had Aaron on, which was amazing. I've got a fantastic slate of guests for August. You can check that out on Twitter. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter and on YouTube.
Yeah.
Everything else I do, though, is mostly just like pure entertainment. Even the fantasy show I do on Fridays, I try to keep it light and breezy. I do a lot of shorts and stuff.
Did you get any dislikes on our video? I forwarded it to my ex-wife so she could hear what I had to say about it. Did you get any dislikes?
No dislikes so far. I've only had positive feedback on the
Nice.
Wildcard Wednesday, the interview shows. That's actually like, it's been like a really cool experience. Just getting to like meet everyone and like get to know more about their lives. Like shout out to IDP underscore Iggy. I had him on the show. That one's unreleased as of yet, but I will say that he told me he basically like look, I'm stupid, so don't quote me directly, but he has like a degree in archaeology or like something close to that. Or basically, like he's Indiana Iggy, like he's Indiana
Something
Jones,
like that.
Yeah, no, he's an educated motherfucker. Sorry,
That he is.
you can bleep that out.
No, it's all right.
He's an educated guy. He's like a really sick dude. So I had him on the show, and that was like really awesome. And I've had all kinds of great guests, and I'll just continue to do that. So that one, honestly, like I said, is like really positive, and it's just about community and like getting into like life questions and a bunch of silly stuff. So that's my favorite one, and then everything else is just like I said, entertaining little shorts and a fantasy show that I actually do on Fridays.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me. Once again, this has been the series premiere of Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again, Jack, for joining me, and thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night.